Hi, everyone. Bill Rentschler in the 1011 Now streaming studio. Hope everyone's having a nice Tuesday. Again, it's Tuesday. We usually do this on Monday, but we're hanging out with the Better Business Bureau, and usually we're hanging out with Josh Planos from the Better Business Bureau. But today we have the pleasure of bringing in Jessie Schmidt. You are in charge of sort of the South Dakota region of the Better Business Bureau. Jessie, thank you so much for hopping on and joining us today. How's your Tuesday going?
Oh, so far so good. I mean, the weather's a vast improvement. So that's all good.
Yes, it is. Still hot today, but thankfully the actual temperatures are out of the triple digits, which will take that any day of the week. Jesse, I have good news though. Again, I am a meteorologist by training, and so I'm keep an eye on the weather things. This Sunday is the start of meteorological fall, so that means
Bring it on.
yes. Hopefully, the cooler temperatures are coming sooner rather than later. But Jesse, today we're talking about, again, we had college campus. The kids, the young kids, went back to school a couple weeks ago. But the older kids, the big kids, they were returning to college campuses. Again, UNL started just yesterday, and so today we're kind of focusing in on those college kids who could be a little bit vulnerable, potentially venturing out kind of for the first time on their own.
Absolutely. And, unfortunately, they don't get their news probably listening to us, right? They're getting it off of these devices. And so we do see young people are victims at a larger rate than people would expect. And it just goes to follow that that's where scammers love to lie, in that area of uncertainty.
And there's so many different, kind of avenues, especially for college age students to potentially get mixed up in some of these scams. You have everything from online shopping, test prep scams, ID theft, credit card theft. So there's a ton of different areas that we kind of want to talk through today. But wanted to start first with kind of credit cards, fake credit cards, the real ones and the fake ones, because as these kids are kind of setting out for the first time on their own, they need an income source, and a credit card can be a really easy way, really dangerous way to kind of, get dinner after you're done with class, or spend it at the student union or whatever you want to use it for. But something we've got to be careful with.
For sure, as you evaluate those needs and wants, and millions of Americans got their first credit card when they were on a college campus. And that is still true, right? That information is out there for people. But now they're getting fake requests into their inbox, whether it's through their university email or whether through their own private email. And this is what we call a typical phishing scam, right? And you can have these as it relates to just about everything we're going to talk about today. So again, what scammers want is really that all important information: your social security number, your date of birth, all those things that are never going to change. So be very, very cautious before you give that information out to anybody.
And then that's the fake stuff. That's the scams. But also, again, a lot of these college students probably have mom and dad's credit card. And again, Josh and I have talked a little bit about this over the past several weeks. But just some basic financial literacy can go a long way for some of these kids who do have that plastic card.
Boy, isn't that the truth? And I always say these are great dinner table conversations with your young adults or with grandparents and grandkids. I think they listen to grandparents better than they listen to parents sometimes. And again, so right, take that opportunity to talk about like not spending more than you make. And you're on a limited income when you're in college, right? And so while it's no fun, there's nothing the matter with eating ramen, right? And mac and cheese out of the box. And really save your money for those big things that you are going to incur, as those unforeseen circumstances, because Murphy lives around the corner.
I just had again. It's always funny, kind of some of the things that you take for granted of what you know, and then what you don't know. I had a conversation. I have an 8-year-old and a 7-year-old at home, and just last week we talked through what a debit card is, and how it works, and how it connects to the bank. And sometimes you take for granted that but not everyone necessarily knows this, especially, young kids, teenagers, and potentially those teenagers heading off to college for the first time.
Well, and things are very different than probably when you and I were in college, right? We didn't have debit cards. We wrote checks for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was standard procedure to reconcile your checking account at the end of each month. Well, that's kind of a long forgotten practice. And again, just because you have money in the account doesn't mean that you have extra money. So again, some really good financial basic literacy is good for all of us, young and old.
And so the next thing on the list is ID theft. Again, I feel like every other week we turn around and there's been some data breach from some company, and it's however many millions of people's information has potentially been taken out there in the world. And so really important, again, especially for young kids, to make sure you're kind of keeping an eye on who's getting that information and making sure that your information's not floating around out there and for someone to use it in a bad way.
Absolutely. And oftentimes young adults think, hey, I don't have any credit anyway. Why would I need to check that out? So we're going to tell you no. Take that time to annually go to annualcreditreport.com and request a free credit report. But also, we're going to tell you be cautious of your information, even on your college campus, right? If you do have a few checks that you use to pay your tuition, put those in a lockbox. We made sure that when both of our kids went off to school, that they had a lockbox that they could, lock their social security number in, any important papers that they didn't want to lose. And my son just said the other day, oh, I got to go find my checks that are in the lockbox so I can pay my tuition because they don't take a debit card. So again, financial literacy is really an important aspect, and ID theft follows right behind that.
And right behind that is going to be, again, protecting yourself when you're online. Again, Josh always tells me the numbers. There's an ungodly amount of shopping now that just basically happens online. It's really easy. You hit checkout and it's going to put in your Apple Pay or whatever it might be. But again, just taking a couple extra seconds to make sure everything looks right, smells right, can save you a lot of heartache and a lot of trouble on the back end.
Oh gosh, isn't that the truth? And again, we see young people fall victim to these online shopping scams because really they grew up with online shopping. We didn't, right? But they're just used to a click, check box, boom, out the door. It's going to be at my doorstep tomorrow. So again, yes, make sure it's a secure site. Make sure when you're on that checkout page that it says HTTPS on that checkout page.
And then the last one, and this is especially geared for, I'd say, high schoolers and college-age kids, but test preparation scams. This is something the BBB has seen before, but again, when you get in high school, you're studying for the ACT, SAT, and then in college, all the tests throughout the year, finals. And again, when you or I were in college, it's much different, but now I feel like everything's online. There's a ton of different, this textbook and all the answer keys are online. Just pay this amount and you get all the answers and whatever it might be. And some of that stuff is probably really good and really helpful for a lot of kids, but some of that stuff is set up there and designed by these scammers who are trying to take advantage of these young kids.
Absolutely. And some of the worst things we hear is that they will turn this around on students and attempt to blackmail them for, attempting to use these services. And, they're going to report them to the university and they're going to, let everybody know that they're a cheater. And we're going to tell you, gosh, take a step back, really be very, very cautious before you enter into anything like this. There are some really good test prep out there, but gosh, we're going to say check them out on bbb.org. Or if anything has happened to you about any of the things that we have talked about today, please report it to BBB Scam Tracker. We want to know what our citizens and our neighbors are experiencing, because then we can bring them to you, Bill, on your show.
Yeah, again, Josh and I always talk about, 80% of the job is kind of just getting the information out there so people do realize this is going on. And all the numbers that, we always talk about, which some of them are very incredible, it's usually just a pretty small fraction of what's actually happening because they can only run the numbers on what's being reported.
Yes, absolutely true. We always think it's the tip of the iceberg. Sorry.
I was going to say, and when we get, as a meteorologist, when we get snow, everyone wants to know how much snow we had. And I can only tell you what people have reported. And again, usually it's just a really small percentage of people that send in those snowfall reports, and it's kind of the same thing here.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, Jessie, is there anything else, again, that specifically, college kids that you want to mention, kind of need to know about, parents of college kids maybe need to know about as we kind of kick off the fall semester here?
Well, I would just say, never waste the opportunity to have a conversation with your young adults, right? Again, they are smart. There's a lot of things that they know a lot about that we don't know about. But there are a few things that we've been around the block on before. And so, again, always bring it up in a light and heartfelt way. But if you hear something, bring it up as an example, because gosh, we don't want to be talking about your kids and grandkids on here next week or next month.
Yeah, we've scraped our knees a few times, and we're trying to help you not go through some of the same pain and heartache that we have gone through ourselves.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Jessie, I really appreciate your time as always. Well, I guess not as always. This is our first time. Maybe we'll talk to you again in the future. I hope so. Again,
Likewise.
We love hanging out with Josh, but now we love hanging out with Jessie too. So I appreciate your time today. I hope you have a really nice Tuesday. And again, I know it's going to be hot, not as hot as the last couple of days, but I hope you don't melt up there either.
Nice in South Dakota today.
Good deal. All right. Well, Jessie, thank you so much for your time. Again, appreciate her time, Josh's time. We really love talking to them. Again, they gave us some really good information on just things to watch out for. Again, usually we do this on Mondays, but again, some scheduling conflicts. We moved it around to Tuesday. So appreciate Jessie, appreciate Josh. And again, next Monday we'll have another edition of Consumer Safety Spotlight. So until then, thanks everyone for tuning in and for watching. Keep it tuned to 1011, both on air and online, for all of your latest news, weather, and sports.